of the things I think that's important about you is you're keeping that sort of CBGB's New York City energy alive.
Well, I'm a fan of that stuff. I always, like
without you, I don't like. I mean, the Bowery Electric, this place, Coney Island Baby.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We used to do these parties at a guy named Giorgio Gamelski's loft. This guy who was this old Russian, European
Is that
guy.
the green door parties?
Yeah, and he had a green door.
My friend Molly asked about that. She wanted to ask you about that. She said wants to know about the green door parties, Coney Island High, and how your musical empire was built of that momentum. At Molly 3 King, that's her question.
Okay. After a heart attack broke up, I had this band Hope that never made records, and it was a tough time. I was like in my later teens, and my mom just passed away, and I had to move back to Queens. I used to live, I'd crash in our rehearsal studio on Avenue B. I think it was 162 Avenue B. Shared a studio with the False Prophets and my band Heart Attack, and then it was Hope. And we lived there. I worked at a health food spot, and I'd live on out-of-date yogurts and tofu, and we'd, do the push-ups and jump around with the guitars and play, and then we'd, book gigs, and eventually that place would become the Lakeside Lounge and stuff, and now Dream Baby, and I go in there, and I'm like, that was where my bed was, but I wanted to find a way to stay out of a heavy job, and I wasn't going to school that much, and I had to kind of raise my sister and go back to Queens, and so I got a van, and I just figured I could carry my gear and go on tour, but then I could move other people. And so I made flyers, and I went all over the city, and I'd drive bands from the music building to CBGB's, or I'd move kids going to NYU, or furniture and Castro converters and, futons. And we worked for everybody from, like, the Swans to Barbra Streisand. And so it was a good gig. And then it's still, like, lifting a lot of shit. It's giving me a hernia. But I was able to hire...
Stiff don't lift.
Yeah. Johnny Stiff does it now.
And
I had like 9 vans, and they all died violent deaths. In fact, one I rolled a 360. I broke my nose.
Oh, really?
On coming back from Pittsburgh at a gig. We had a trailer.
That's
We switched drivers in motion. Don't do that at home, kids. Don't do that away from home. But one New Year's Eve, we just didn't want to be, me and my friends, in a club, like listening to all the music that we hated, the mainstream rock or whatever club stuff. I don't want to list any bands this time, but it was just, we didn't want to be stuck on New Year's Eve at one of these big clubs. So we decided we wanted to throw a party and play records that we loved and try to get people to dress up real funky and wild and dance. And we brought in all the booze in my van from a beer distributor in Brooklyn, and the door was green, so we called it the Green Door Party, and we said, save New Year's Eve, and that's what we called the party. And our girlfriends sold the beer, and we put on the records Howie Pyro, my friend, my roommate, who'd eventually become my bass player in Degeneration, and my friend Richard Backus, and my ex-girlfriend friend Holly Ramos, and my friend Victor Murgatroyd. We all threw this together, and it was packed, and people had a ball. It went till 6 in the morning, and we did this in this guy's loft. It looked like the scene in Midnight Cowboy, like that loft party scene. Giorgio took very little money. He let people rehearse in his place on different floors, and he also had an S&M club there that he didn't run, but he took a little percentage out of it called Paddles. And I remember I'd load bands in with my van. They'd be rehearsing. I'd be loading bands in the middle of a Saturday night coming back from a gig, and people would be getting spanked and paddled. And so I knew that this place was available for parties. So we did the Green Door there, and it went so well that someone said, do this again.
Right.
And then we did it again, and more people started coming out, and like it got really fun. And we'd listen to records and play records from like the Stooges to, Funkadelic to Sly Stone to the Cramps to, Escarita. And the idea was just about dancing, that people had to really dance. And so after that ended, it got so hot there with no air conditioning, we started doing it at different clubs. And we started doing it at a place on St. Mark's. It was only open one night a week called Boy Bar. But they let us come in, and we started doing it there. And
was
eventually,
it a gay place?
It was a gay place that Dean Johnson, a lot of cool people. Paul McGregor had owned the building. He was the guy that invented the shag haircut for Jane Fonda and the implosion or explosion haircut that Jimi Hendrix had. And supposedly Shampoo, the movie, was based on him, like the character in it. And Joey Ramone said he went there. He told me, I went there to get my hair cut once when I was a kid. Apparently, Paul McGregor, the landlord, when he was cutting hair, would come out every Saturday, and people would wait online. He'd come out dressed as a cowboy or dressed as a sailor, and like an Indian, and then he'd bring him in, and you get your hair cut.
Did he give Joey Ramone his famous haircut?
I don't know about that haircut. I think Joey went there to get before he told me, the Jimi Hendrix haircut.
Oh,
to
funny.
Look like that. It's like a fro. I don't know. But so this space was magical, and
It's weird to think of Joey Ramone as Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah. Everybody comes from somewhere, but I know. But so we went in there and we did this club all the time, and then eventually these people invested, and I had this idea that instead of just doing Green Door, that we'd maybe do a club that would be every night, 7 nights of this. And I hired all my friends. I didn't know what I was doing. And I named it Coney Island High because Coney Island, going out there and riding the Cyclone and doing all that and jumping off the pier and everything was something me and my friends loved doing. It was one of my favorite places in the world, still is. And I thought Coney Island High. And people were like, well, it's not in Brooklyn. The idea was that it would also be like a high school, like the Ramones, Rock and Roll High School.
Oh, right.
And Coney Island High. And then kind of like Max's Kansas City. Well, Max's Kansas City wasn't in Kansas City.
Right.
So let's just do this thing, Coney Island High. And it would look like a school, and it was on St. Mark's. And so I had a record deal with D Generation at this point. We were
touring. Didn't it have a clown on it or something, too?
Like that steeplechase clown. That wasn't our thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But, I was touring all over the place, and I hired all my friends. I didn't know how to run a place. I hired some people I didn't know, and everybody gave the place the liquor away, and everybody had a ton of fun. But we weren't running it like a real business. And I'm on tour with Kiss and Social Distortion, and we got all this record company money, which I had put some of that money in to do this club. And Giuliani was the mayor, and they started coming after us for dancing. And one of the biggest nights was the Green Door Party.
Mm-hmm.
And, when people come out and go see a show, they have a drink or two, but they don't spend a lot of money. But if it's a dance party and people are hooking up and they're having fun, so we had to stop dancing. We were telling people, you can't dance. And we had signs up, and they said, what is this, Footloose? Is this real? And I said, no, it's cabaret laws. So we tried to get a cabaret license, but it turned out St. Mark's Place, that between 2nd and 3rd, was zoned residential.
Wow.
And you looked out the door, they were selling condoms and T-shirts and crack and, Japanese food and records. And so we couldn't get a cabaret license because it was residential. When was it zoned? 100 years ago when it was it was a real catch-22. So we lost the place and learned a lot of lessons, but it was a fun 5 years, the nights that we had there, and a lot of cool bands. Ramones played there, and Iggy Pop and Beastie Boys, and tons of young bands and hardcore shows, and so we learned a lot about it. I wanted a place, as we said, for the kids, by the kids, and I guess if we were smarter, we might have had more money to fight the lawyers and to fight with lawyers and stand up a little bit more. But the city, as much as Giuliani would become sort of a hero for a moment during 9/11 and after, it was really felt like a dictatorship, fascist kind of state when he was the mayor. I went to jail twice, and I don't have a police record, but one time after playing the Garden with Kiss for an open container in front of the Garden, I just played, and another time for putting up a poster with Scotch tape. I did 2 days in the Tombs.
Crazy.
So it was a cuckoo time. So after that, I just wanted to have a little place with my friends, a little bar, like a Frank Sinatra kind of fantasy.
Yeah.
So me and Johnny T and a couple other folks opened up Niagara, just a place where we could play records and hang out. And I think when musicians aren't touring or playing, or you want to listen to music and talk about music and drink and talk about music and talk to girls and talk about music, and so it was that kind of thing. We just did it real casual, and we would let every band, wherever I go on the road, I always want to find that bar where the good music is, or it used to be a jukebox, or where there's a cool DJ. Where do we go? You ask people, where's a record store? And so we just made it a place. If you were in a band, you came here, you come, and you and your crew come, and you'll drink free and hang out, and that became the thing. And Joe Strummer came there a couple times.